Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm here with another watercolor and I've got my Mozart Kohlrabi palette and I'm going to be doing some, I think, greens and blues today. And I'm going to keep it kind of light and kind of wet. And I've got my little mixing cup here. I'm going first into my peak green and I think this is going to be the star of the show. And I'm going to get plenty of water on my brush and some pigment mixed up in here. I might also add just a little dab of Payne's Gray to kind of gray it down just a little bit. So it's sort of a muted green. And it's going to be pretty light on my paper. And if you want, you can even dip into water and just really kind of let it go. I'm just going to make some very random brush marks here and just kind of play with how the water mixes with the paint. And we have kind of a nice little background here. And I'm going to go in for this brilliant green next, and it's going to be a little bit of a different color, and I'm going to maybe make it just a little bit darker. And I'm also going to add in some Payne's Gray to this one. Payne's Gray will kind of be like what we see in everything. And I'm just going to work out a few places where this can go. And again, I'm just being very loose, just kind of playing around with brush marks, squishing it in some places, and just having some fun with the color. These two greens I'm working with, they can be pretty pigmented, but you can also use them very lightly. And they're really beautiful. I'm going to maybe add some marks here, just like that. And just keep it very loose. I'm going to go next. You know what? I think I'm going to go into the yellow ochre and just kind of mix it with what I've got left in my little mixing cup here. And we have a pretty cool green, so I'm going to warm it up with some of this other green mixed with the yellow ochre. And I'm going to put in just some interesting little marks and kind of let that drip down a bit. I'm just using the very point of my brush just to drag this out. And I'm going to get some more of that paint, a little bit more water, and just work it into my brush a bit and just add it around a few of these spots. Kind of fill in that little half moon shape there. And I'm really just working on some shapes. Going to keep a few of these circles going like that. And just whatever I feel like. Now I'm going into the Payne's Gray and again mixing it with just what I've got left over. And I'm just going to spread this right in here and let it fall off my brush. I'm going to go straight into my pan now and get some really concentrated color, and that way it won't spread out quite so much and we can get a nice dark value. Now I'm still working wet, but it's going to hold its shape a little bit better the drier it is. Now I'm going to grab a smaller brush and I'm going to go into, let's see, I think a blue would be nice. So I'm going to go into the deep blue here, and this will look nice with the Payne's Gray and the green we've got. And I'm just going to add another bit of highlight, or another bit of shadow here. And I'm just sort of following the inside of that line where I've got the Payne's Gray and just kind of building on that a bit. And the Payne's Gray is still wet, so this will kind of bleed into it a little bit and into the other parts of our painting. So I've got some nice little hard edges and soft edges here, which I really like. And kind of an interesting little marked composition here. I think I am going to let this dry as is, and let's just see what we have when we get done. Okay, we are completely dry, and I'm going to add a little bit more watercolor, but I am going to focus on metallics. So I'm going to activate my metallic bronze and get it nice and creamy. And I'm going to use my silicone shaper tool, and I normally use it for my acrylic paint, but it also works really well for watercolor. And I am going to pick a spot to put a nice big dollop, and I'm just sort of blotting my brush to let the paint fall off of it into a pile, just like that. And I'm going to set my brush aside because I don't want to lose the paint off of it. And I'm going to grab my silicone tool and spread this around the outside just until my paint runs out. And you're not going to see a ton of it straight on, but you're going to see it off to the side. And then I'm going to put a couple other little gold rings, or bronze rings, I guess. It's very golden though. It's not too different from that gold. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I like having the couple of additional rings over there too. So I've got it kind of blotted off. I'm going to take my silicone tool again, and I'm pulling it toward myself so that I can see where the paint goes. And you could do it with your brush too, but this gives it like a nice thin coat. And then we can kind of make thicker lines with our brush, and I'm going to have this kind of go behind this one, so I'm going to end my lines there. And I'm going to do this on one more shape, and I'm going to put it on this sort of light green area here. So I'm going to grab my tool and just let that go. I'm going to put a little bit more on here. So I can get more distance. And actually, you know what? Why don't we have it coming the whole way up? Like that. And then I can go back in and add a couple more fun little lines of bronze. And I think that looks really cool. Then I'm going to put a brush load in each of these little shapes left over by my last brush. And this is going to be our metallic part. Now I want to get some more dark color in here, so I'm going to go back into this Payne's Gray straight out of the pan, and I'm going to put in a nice dark line. Now what I'm doing is I'm kind of dragging my brush down and then picking it back up so I can have a line that has different widths. See that? And then I'm going to drop in some more paint just with the very tip of my brush, and I'm letting the paint just fall off of it and fill those spaces. I'm just going back over my wet marks very, very lightly to just let more color fall off the tip of my brush, just like this. And so then we get some really nice variable, values in here. Some nice dark values is awesome. So I'm going to go around this one as well. And I'm going to do the same thing, just like that. And I might even do like a double ring around this one, because I don't like how they're just right next to each other like that. I'd rather have a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to add another layer here. So we have 2 lines. And then I'm just going to go back over with my brush and over the wet spots and just drop some color in really gently. I like that. And then we're getting some really nice contrast in our paper and some nice metallics. Now I'm going to come over here. This should pretty much be dry, but I'm going to stay just slightly outside of the border here, so that if it does touch and it's still wet, it's not going to spread too much. And I'm going to do another loop here too. And then same thing, I'm just going to drop that nice dark paint in here. Just let it fall off the tip of my brush. And since we have 2 rings around those, I suppose I better put a second one around this first circle, so that we have some continuity here. Why not? And then we have both of our shapes coming off the page too, which is a good thing. Probably makes it a little bit more balanced. I'm going to drop some more dark color in this one also. I really love Payne's Gray. It's one of my favorite watercolors because even as dark as you can get it to look, you still see that blue, and it's really beautiful. And I think that this looks really good. I'm going to do just a simple little circle here. Simple little one here, and then I'll leave that one be. I think I like how that looks. So these are just kind of a hint of some more marks. Okay, I guess I can't do too many circles. All right, now I'm done. I think this looks really cool. And I'm going to let it dry. All right, we are totally dry, and I grabbed my gray fine liner, and I'm going to do some hash lines around these little gaps. And I'm just going quickly and filling in between where these 2 blue lines are. And since I'm going over dark, it's not really going to show up, so I don't have to be too careful with my line. All right, I've got all my hash marks in, and they're nice and light compared to the background, but it adds just a little bit of that texture there. So next I'm going to grab my jelly roll, and it's my finer tip. It's the 05, and I'm going to do the inside of these, maybe, if it wants to write. You know what? Maybe I'm just gonna grab my other one. So this is the 10. This is thicker tip. And I'm going to draw some dashes here at different lengths, and I'm going to put white balls at the end. I really like how this looks. I'm going to continue that with these 2 other big ones, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I've got all my white in and my gray, and I'm just kind of looking at this and seeing what I might like to do next. And I'd like to maybe add a warmer color in here somewhere, maybe in a couple of these bright spots or some of the lighter areas. And I don't want to do like a red or an orange, because with this green here, it's going to turn it kind of brown. So what I might do is grab my yellow Posca and maybe make some little, trying to see how bright this kind of shows up here. I don't know how much I like that, actually. I don't think I'm going to continue. Maybe I can do this pink. This might actually work. And I can go over those 2 yellows, and it will look a little bit different than the other spots. But the pink, I think, is opaque enough to handle this green. It's warm, and I think I like this better than that yellow color. It's just a little pop of something different than those red or the greens and blues. And actually, it's kind of, I think I need to clean the tip because it's kind of looking a little purple with that green mixing in, kind of reactivating a little bit. All right, I grabbed my black micron. This is the 04 tip, and I'm just going to turn these into scallops and just outline them. Now what I'm going to do here with these spirals, I'm not going to cover the whole thing, but I'm going to have this pattern just kind of coming out a bit from the side here. I think that looks pretty good there. And then some coming out from the bottom right on this one, and then coming up from the bottom here. Now my black doesn't want to write on top of this metallic watercolor very much, so I have to kind of take it slow to make it get the ink out. Sometimes when it goes over certain surfaces, it's like the ink kind of loses a little bit of its flow, but then it gets it back again once it gets over a light area or a non-metallic area. But I want to get it a little bit more out of that dark background area. It's kind of turning into another gray. If you look at it compared to these ones, it's so much lighter, and I'm using the same pen. Maybe I'll grab another color or another pen. I'll go with the 05. And this is really dark compared to the other ones. Maybe I'm just out of ink because, yeah, it looks way different. I think I'm going to go over these ones again too so that they match better. And that way all my spirals will look the same. Okay, I cleaned off my marker and I'm going to add a second coat here to brighten these up some more. So I'm just going back over my old marks now that they've dried. I'm going to make these a little bit of a brighter pink. And now where I have my spirals, I'm just going to leave them the original color. Almost like they're going behind them, and I'm going to add another little sort of half of a shape there. That way it doesn't look like I just have a row of those blobs. And I think this looks better. And I'm going to grab my jelly roll again and just give these a little outline. Oh, I won't worry about it up there because you won't be able to see it anyway. So we've got some more contrast there. And I kind of like this. This is pretty cool. This is definitely an interesting one. I did some little abstract shapes and stuff, and I really like how this turned out. It's a very simple doodle, and I hope you enjoyed this one. We had some fun together today. If you like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And I'm just gonna show you that wonderful metallic. Even where we use that silicone tool, you can see the solid line, but when you look at it straight on, it's mostly the ones from the brush that you can see the best. So I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to subscribe, and until next time, keep creating.